Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC Football Podcast, alongside the man affectionately known as the NESCAC man, Dave Bagatelle. I'm Chris Grace, and we are in it, my man. We thought it was going to be a ho-hum week. Never ho-hum in the NESCAC, my friend. Plenty to talk about. Upsets all over the place. Every
Crazy
game
week.
came down to the wire. So much to talk about. We've got great guests. We're going to connect with Zach Falls, leading touchdown receiver in the NESCAC out of Williams, sophomore who's just jumped on the scenes. We're going to catch up with BJ Hammer because his team pulled off the biggest upset in recent memory in the NESCAC, obviously the Bowdoin Polar Bears. And Dave and I have so much to catch up on. But first and foremost, Dave, it's great to see you again. And we have so much to talk about. Who would have thought it? We thought, hey, this is like the setup week. This is the week where it was, oh, we've got 3 big weeks at the end of the year with all the rivalries, blah, 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 blah. And these are like all these 4-1 teams playing against teams that are 1-4 or 2-3 or 0-5. It's just going to be ho-hum. We're going to move forward to the final 3 weeks of the season. Not so much.
Yeah, welcome to the NESCAC, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 50th anniversary of Jaws, so just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, here we are. So
we need a bigger boat.
5 weeks and 5 games, and 4 of them, as you said, were decided by a touchdown or less.
And the other one was a 10-point game that was close in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. So, yeah, really, it was a great week in NESCAC football. I'm recovered pretty much at this point from my viewing on Saturday. So I'm ready to strap it back on this Saturday, Chris, ready to get back on the horse. I'm ready to go. But it was an exciting week. Look, at the end of the day, all 4 of the teams that were tied for first last week still have a legitimate chance to win the NESCAC title. They pretty much all control their own destiny. It looks like for the first time ever, NESCAC's been awarding championships in football since 2000. We have never in 25 years had a 2-loss champion.
Really?
Is this year the year? If this year could be the year, Williams and Trinity still have a chance to end up with 1 loss and win the championship. If Amherst or Wesleyan are going to share in the title, they will have 2 losses and will probably end up having at least a 2-way tie. So a lot to play for. We got Little 3 to play for. We have the NESCAC title to play for. And by the way, we still have the CBB to be decided as well. Let's not forget about that. So a lot of rivalry games and the old rocking chair classic, Middlebury and Hamilton. Let's not forget about that either. It's not a made up thing. It's a real thing. Go Google it. It really exists. Yeah, there's a lot to play for. Battle of the Birds, Trinity Wesleyan coming up too. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting end here. We have a lot of really great games this week, so I'm really looking forward to this Saturday. And it looks like another great day of weather in New England too, which we've really, just as an aside, we've had a great year from a weather standpoint. Last year, not so much. This year, it's been a really fantastic fall for football in New England.
All right, but before we get to next week, let's focus on last week because there's a lot to digest. Typically, when I look at these scores, it's, we'll start with this one, we'll start with this one, we'll go with this one, and we'll finish with this one. I don't even know where to start, so I'm just gonna look at the NESCAC scoreboard and start from the top. Amherst coming in 4-1, hosting Colby, a Colby team that had a great win in week 1. They by most accounts stole a game against Bates, but have really struggled offensively. They go into Pratt Field and they knock off the Mammoths 13-9, and that game ended on a goal line stand. What a great win for Coach Cosgrove and the Colby Mules, who have picked up their 3rd win of the year. Listen, they've beaten Trinity and Amherst. Not any other team in the NESCAC has 2 better wins than that. That's pretty impressive from the
Yeah.
Mules. And for the first time this year, we saw Amherst offense really stifled by this Colby defense.
Yeah, you look at some of Colby's offensive stats in this game. They had 7 first downs. Another week where they struggled running the ball. They had 36 yards rushing on 23 attempts, and they threw for better than they did last week. Last week they threw for 20 yards. This week they topped the 50-yard mark. They threw for 60 yards. And so not a lot of offense from the Colby Mules, but when you play defense, the way they've been playing defense, you really don't need a lot of offense. They remind me of, I was a big fan of the Giants in the 80s. They remind me a little bit of that. They just went ugly. They play good defense and play Northeastern style football and smash mouth football. And they got it done against Amherst, who came in offensively playing very well. Their defense is obviously pretty good as well. So not shocking that Colby struggled offensively. Interestingly, Colby did make a quarterback change there. They moved away from Miles Drake. We've heard it could be an injury. We've heard it could be just a personnel change. It'll be interesting to see who plays quarterback going forward for the Colby Mules. But you know what? Playing the way they're playing, here they are. They're 3-3. They're at 500. They're not going to win a league title this year. They have a good shot at winning the CBB, obviously, but they're trying to get to that next level. The next level is getting over 500, and they've got a good chance of that. They've got to win 2 of their last 3 games to accomplish that, but they have some games that they're definitely going to be winnable. Heck, they beat a couple good teams, as you pointed out. So, frankly, they've proven they could beat anybody in this league.
Yeah, and listen, defense travels, right? So you talk about the 80s Giants, you can talk about the 85 Bears, you can talk about the Ravens teams with Trent Dilfer as their quarterback. You can go ad nauseum with this. When you have a good defensive team, you always have a chance. And the big thing with Colby is, unlike some of their losses in recent weeks, they didn't fall behind. So when you're playing with a lead, you can control the risks that you're making offensively. And listen, it came down to the wire, and Amherst had a chance to win the game late, but Colby's defense rose up, and they made the plays when they needed to, and they, by the skin of their teeth, they left Amherst with a win. It's a great victory, honestly.
Yeah.
In most weeks, that would be the headline of our podcast, would be Colby winning on the road at Amherst, a 4-1 Amherst team. This week, probably not going to be the headline. There might be another headline to come up, but a heck of a job by Coach Cosgrove's defense. And for the first time this year, we really saw Amherst's offense struggle a little bit, and they're going to have to get right back at it. And we'll talk about that later on in the podcast, because they're going to be starting off their little 3 calendar against Wesleyan on homecoming in Middletown. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure, plenty later on in the podcast. As we move forward, Bates and Williams. So this game, Dave, was bonkers.
Yeah, crazy.
We didn't know this during our podcast last week, but we got some inside information on Saturday morning that Owen Johansson was not going to play quarterback for Williams. And Williams clearly started slow. Bates was dominating the football game. They were up by 16 points at halftime, in complete control of the game. And then Williams just started chipping away, and they found a way to figure it out offensively without their most talented player in Owen Johansson. They got the ball to Zach Falls, and he had 5 catches for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, as he continues to do spectacular things for Coach Raymond's team. And listen, second straight week that we've had a coach on the podcast that's won the following week, which is a win for us. Tough loss for Bates, great opportunity for the Bobcats, but a spectacular second half effort by the Eves to continue their NESCAC championship hopes.
Yeah, hats off to their backup quarterback there, Drew Renzella. 3 touchdown passes coming into a tough situation because Owen Johansson was doing it all. He was passing the ball, running the ball, obviously one of the league leaders in rushing. And you would expect they would just hand the ball to John Orris all day, which they did a bunch.
Yeah.
They did a bunch, and he obviously had quite a day. He was NESCAC Offensive Player of the Week at 198 yards rushing and 25 carries and a touchdown, including a 92-yarder. So he had a hell of a day. Zella threw the ball. He only threw 16 passes, but 3 of them were completed and 7 completions, and 3 of those were completed for touchdowns to our guest, to Zach Falls, who had another heck of a day. Yeah, kudos to them for getting it done. And also Bates did a good job. Bates has been primarily a running team.
Yeah, they
They
shifted too. Yeah.
they had to, because the one thing Williams has not done, they're playing a lot of young guys in the secondary, but they have not defended the pass. And a Bates team, that's something obviously Williams and Amherst are noting. Merrick Hill and Matt Fitzsimons, both talented quarterbacks. Merrick went over 300 yards again. Fitzsimons obviously can throw the ball around. Jack Perry, who has had an up and down year, obviously, he's filling in for injured starter Sergio Beltran. He threw for 288 yards, 3 touchdowns. That for Bates, that's a lot of
Yeah.
through 27 passes. That's a lot for Bates. He had a big day. And like you said, they had a big lead at halftime and just couldn't hold on. They still had a chance at the end there. And good job by the Williams defense sort of holding on for the W.
Yeah. You think about it as a team that relies on running the football like Bates obviously does. When you're down by 2 scores, it feels like 7 scores, right? Because the clock just seems to drain and all these things, but they were unable to really establish the dive play. They were unable to establish Linsky as they have and at times. But to me, it really comes down to Williams. That's a culture win for Williams because when you go into a week and you don't know who your quarterback is going to be and you're asking, it's essentially their third quarterback because we can't forget that Owen McHugh, who was their starter for the majority of last year, got injured and is missing this year. And then you go to Owen Johansson, and he was by most accounts a game time decision. And you shift to basically your third guy. Come on, at a Division III level, you're not expecting your third guy to be able to do much of anything. Hopefully, he doesn't make any mistakes. And he didn't turn the ball over, and he threw 3 touchdown passes. So listen, Coach Raymond and the East deserve a ton of credit because it had all the makings of, oh, we don't have a quarterback. This is one of those games, and they figured it out. Not only did they figure it out, they flipped the switch. They were down 16 at halftime, and then they quickly went up by 14 in the second half. They flipped it so quick. So to me, that was the most impressive performance of the week was the way that the Williams team bounced back at halftime. We're going to talk to Zach Falls later on in the podcast and get some of his insight, but I was blown away by the way they were able to turn that game around. Very impressed.
And look, Matt Coyne has a history with Williams. He spent his first 2 years at Williams. He wants to beat Williams almost as bad as he wants to beat Wesleyan. So he was going for the jugular, which absolutely makes it even that much harder for Williams to do what they did. Kudos to them. They were looking to be in the same boat as Amherst and Wesleyan, be subject to, not to take anything about Bates, but it would have been an upset for sure. Williams losing to Bates, and they recovered and they got the W.
Yeah, I can't say enough. Very impressive by the Eves, figuring out ways to win and reinventing their offense seemingly on a week-to-week basis, right? They have the 2 leading rushers in the NESCAC and Johansson and Orris. Johansson doesn't play. They figure it out. Listen, if you're going to complete 7 passes and 3 of them were for touchdowns, you're doing something right. So full credit to the Eves. We move forward. Tufts in Hamilton. This was a back and forth game. Tufts jumped out early. We talked about it last week a bit. Tufts has made a change at the quarterback position. They brought in Hudson Weidman, a guy that you know very well. And he was a guy who had some good pedigree and had a late injury in his high school career. But since Tufts has shifted over to him, their offenses look very different. He was 29 for 41 for 319, 3 passing touchdowns through the air, and he also ran for 31 yards. Tufts offense has changed. Hamilton doing the things that we've seen from Hamilton. Luke Curzon bounced back after 2 tough weeks, 21 for 35 for 277 and 3 touchdowns. But I think the storyline of this game, Dave, is Tufts seems to have their signal caller of the future. I don't think there's any question about it. And that was really the question about Tufts going into the year. We liked a lot of other pieces of their ball club. We didn't know what they were going to do at the quarterback position. And I'm sure Coach Savetti maybe, who knows, but if he could have it back, maybe start the clock a little earlier because they really seem to be finding their way offensively as we get into the end cap of the season.
Yeah, we've seen that with a couple of different teams this year. We've seen it with Bowdoin. We even saw it with Wesleyan. Chase Vaughn started the year for Wesleyan, and then Matt Fitzsimons, of course, came in early in that first game. That's what happens when you have 5 or 6 new quarterbacks. The original guy, the original plan doesn't always work. And Hudson Wyman's playing very well. He's throwing the ball well.
Really well.
He's running the ball well, and he compliments Christian Shapiro, who's one of the better running backs in the league. They got Shertellis Reese back, who had been out for injury. They're definitely a forced to be reckoned with, somebody to watch these last couple weeks of the season. And they've got a very good chance to play spoiler this week, right? They're hosting Williams. We're going to talk more about that game later, but Williams can't look past Tufts. They're playing very good football right now, and offensively they were struggling early on. They're not struggling right now. They're scoring points in bunches, and they're a dangerous team. And as Zach Falls, I think, is going to allude to, they've got to take one game at a time.
It'll be interesting moving forward, but I've been very impressed with the way that Tufts has transformed their offense in a very quick time, and that's got to fall on the quarterback position. That's the only thing that's changed.
Yeah, and
Very
I don't want to take anything away from Luke Curzum at Hamilton, who seems like he's doing everything in his power to will Hamilton to victory. He had a hell of a day. He threw for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was also Hamilton's leading rusher by far. Kudos to him. Very good player. You wonder if you could surround him with a little bit more talent, how good, and give him a little bit more time to throw. Often he's running for his life, how good he could be in some of these other sort of better offenses in the league. What a weapon he is. And we had him, of course, on the podcast earlier. Obviously, very sharp kid, got a great head on his shoulders. He's going to do great things after Hamilton, but very good football player, and our hats off to him as well.
So, Dave, take a breath.
I know where you're headed here next.
So it's time to talk about Trinity. No, I'm kidding. The Bowdoin Polar Bears, 0-5 on the season going into Wesleyan. I love you, Dave.
I love you too, Chris.
I'm not going to repeat. I'm not going to repeat the point spread from last week, but this was a shocking game, and not even shocking in the result. The result was shocking. Bowdoin goes into Middletown and beats Wesleyan 25-17. To me, what was shocking about this, and we're going to talk to Coach Hammer in a little bit, what was shocking to me was just watching the game and seeing the game. If nothing else speaks to how balanced this league is, it's this game, because Bowdoin came in 0-5. They had some moments where they were very competitive, but they haven't really threatened to win any games this year. And quite frankly, they dominated this football game. You can look at the stats however you want to look at them, but as someone who called the game and called every play of this game, Bowdoin's defense completely dominated this game, and their offense found ways to figure out what they were doing. Soren Hummel, 19 for 31 for 3 touchdowns. That needs to be mentioned. And Michael Wolfendale had a big touchdown catch. And then Bowdoin figured it out along the way offensively. But that's not doing this game justice. This game was won with the Bowdoin defense. Bowdoin's defense completely dominated this football game. Matt Fitzsimons, you're going to look at the stats. He had a nice game. He threw for 320 yards. He threw 2 late interceptions when Wesleyan was trying to get back in the game. But you look at the numbers. Wesleyan ran the ball 24 times for 23 yards. And Dante Kelly had 7 catches for 97 yards, but none of them were in the flow of the offense. Wesleyan's offense was never able to get comfortable in this game. And that is 1,000% a result of Bowdoin's defensive strategy and their ability to get pressure rushing 4 guys or less, and Wesleyan never being able to figure out where the pressure was coming from. It was as impressive of a game plan as I've seen defensively since I've been covering this league. Straight up. I've never seen a game where I was going into thinking it was going to be one-sided, and the team who was a dramatic underdog completely controlling the game. And that's what it was. Straight up. Dave?
Yeah, to your point. Hey, first of all, kudos to Bowdoin. They played very well, and especially on defense. Just a couple of things that stuck out of my mind, being there, observing it, watching it. They forced 4 turnovers. Wesleyan, up until this game, had been really good with controlling the ball, not turnovers. Of course, Matt Fitzsimons has been really good about no interceptions. They haven't really been fumbling the ball. So they turned the ball over 4 times. That was huge. Gave up 3 sacks. That was the most sacks in a game that Wesleyan had given up this year. But that doesn't even tell the story.
No.
In this game, and we'll talk to Coach Hammer about it later, 22 quarterback hurries. Now, it's not really an official stat,
Yeah,
but
but it is.
22 quarterback hurries, including 8 from number 11, so from Leary. So that's just, I've never seen a number. You don't really see ever double digits. 22, and by the way, these were not Fugazi quarterback
No,
hurries. I was
no,
watching the game. I
no.
counted. I was in, just by me just guessing, I thought the number was about 20. So I was not shocked to see that it was 22. Wesleyan, just to add insult to injury, was penalized for over 90 yards. So a lot of
Holding calls because they couldn't figure out.
because they just kept grabbing guys. Yes. And it was not. And by the way, I'll just mention this. Wesleyan has been struggling to run the ball, and the struggles continued against Bowdoin. Now, Bowdoin's not an easy team to run the ball against because they're coming with high pressure. They're filling the gaps. You don't know where these guys are coming from. The blocking schemes are a little bit different than they are, but still, this has been going on for a number of weeks here at Wesleyan. In my mind, these last 3 weeks of the season against 3 very good teams. They have Amherst, they have Williams, they have Trinity. They're all very good football teams. They're going to have to run the ball better than they've been running the ball to be able to have a chance, because otherwise people are just going to sit back and they're going to double team Dante Kelly and they're going to cover Blake Newcomb, and it's going to make it very challenging for the Wesleyan passing offense. You can get away with that maybe against some of the lesser teams in the league. You're not going to get away with it against Amherst, Williams, and Trinity. So they got to be able to run the ball better than they have. So even despite that, they still could have come away with a win. But to your point, really good win for Bowdoin on the road, on grass, playing a lot of young kids, a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, heavy underdogs. 0-5. Wesleyan has everything in front of them, and poof. Now, Wesleyan still, and we'll talk more about it later, they're still right in the mix. They completely control their own destiny. They win out. They get a share of the league title at least, but not the result you wanted to see on Saturday if you're Wesleyan. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's hard for me to process because you go into a game thinking one thing is going to happen. And quite frankly, like I haven't watched a lot of Bowdoin this year, right? Because they haven't been in marquee games and there haven't been Bowdoin games that have been relevant, that have been super competitive. But I've told you this since I've met you, I rely on my eyes. And
Yeah.
from the first drive of the game, I knew this was a 4-quarter game because Wesleyan was able to do something that most teams can't do. You're a New York Football Giants fan, correct?
Correct.
The 2 Super Bowls the New York Football Giants have won in the last 20 years, which were against the Patriots, they were able to do one thing, which is get to the quarterback while rushing 4 guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you can do that, you're playing a different game of chess than everybody else because you can do whatever you want with those other 8 guys, 7 guys. And I'm watching that game. I'm saying there seems like there's 35 guys from Bowdoin on defense.
And by the way, that was the formula that Wesleyan used last year with our defense. Yeah. Same formula.
So Wesleyan was never, ever able to figure out their scheme up front. And Bowdoin timed their twists and they timed their blitzes and they mixed them up and they came with guys from the left and the right and the middle. And it was never the same. It was like watching a beautiful musical and Tchaikovsky is pulling the strings and you don't know where they're coming from, but they're coming and you don't know where. And that it was beautiful. If you're not a Wesleyan fan, it was beautiful to watch from a football perspective. It was really amazing, honestly. And that's where I was so impressed. And I give so much credit to Coach Hammer because it's so easy as an 0-5 team to just, they had 2 really bad things happen at the end of the first half. It would have been so easy for them to just sink and go away. But they didn't. they figured out a way. They made plays offensively, and if Wesleyan would have won that game, it would have been impressive. But honestly, I don't think it would have been a fair result because Wesleyan's offense was never able to find a rhythm the entire game.
That's true.
And I'm telling you, if you just flip the uniforms, the better team won that football game in that game. I'm not saying that Bowdoin's a better football team than Wesleyan, but they were on Saturday. And to me, it wasn't particularly close. And I don't get to say that much on this podcast because I only get to talk about the games that I see and that I call, but it was incredible. So full credit to Bowdoin. We'll talk about this more with Coach Hammer, so I don't want to go too deep into this because we still have more games to cover, but a shocking result, but in my mind, a fair result. So we'll talk about it more as we preview next week, but really impressive from the Polar Bears because it is not easy to be a college football team and to lose 5 weeks in a row and to go on the road against the team who won the NESCAC last year, excuse me, and figure out a way to come up with a game plan like that and play with that level of confidence. The one point I'll leave you with, Dave, was calling that game. Bowdoin's sideline was in it the entire time. And again, we talk about this NESCAC schedule for teams like Wesleyan that have the little three and then they have Trinity that's clearly in front of them. It seemed as if the Cardinals were looking a little bit down the road. I don't want to say it was a dead sideline, but there wasn't a lot of energy on the Wesleyan sideline, and there was a ton of energy on a very hungry Bowdoin sideline. So I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but we'll move forward.
Next.
Yeah. The game.
We move on.
The game of the week. He's a neutral. The game of the week was Trinity, and Middlebury's had an up and down season, and Trinity has seemingly found their stride. And Middlebury, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, because they're a good football team, has had Trinity's number. And Coach Mandigo 2-0 against Trinity, was going to Hartford, taking on a Trinity team, coming off of a 49-0 win over Hamilton in the previous week, beat Williams the week before that. They played great football, and Trinity jumped out to a big start. They got up by 2 scores, and it was like, okay, Trinity's there. And then Middlebury hit them right back in the mouth. And before you know it, we got a game at halftime. But then again, Trinity jumps out in the second half, and they're up by 2 scores. And then before it, Middlebury scores 2 quick touchdowns. They have a 2-point conversion to tie the game. And seemed like it was, I didn't see a real replay, but it was debatable whether or not Middlebury scored. And then Middlebury gets the ball back and they get stopped in Trinity territory. And Trinity escapes with a 28-26 victory. This game was exactly what I was expecting. I thought this is what we were going to see. This speaks to the balance of the NESCAC. This speaks to the perennial powers of the NESCAC, Dave. It was a fantastic football game. Another brutal loss for Middlebury, and Trinity continues their climb as they try to win another NESCAC championship.
Yeah, Trinity, since their opening day loss, has now won 5 in a row. Middlebury, their 4 losses are to 4 top teams in the NESCAC, at least the 2025 top teams. Yeah, I wasn't surprised that this was a close game. I did pick Trinity. I had them winning by a little bit more. I thought it would be close. I thought Trinity might score touchdown late to extend the lead. Yeah, as you said, Coach Manigo seems to have Coach Devaney's number a little bit. Trinity jumped out in this game. Middlebury came storming back.
Twice, yeah.
Middlebury never actually led in this game, but they closed within a point at the half. This is a 14-13 game at the half. And if you look at the stats, fairly even. The edge goes to Trinity a little bit. Turnover battle went to, and this was really the big thing for Middlebury. Trinity did turn the ball over a couple times, and that's something you usually don't see out of Trinity teams. They're usually really good with the possessions, and they're really good on the penalty side. This Trinity team, a little bit different in some ways. The one thing that they seem to be peaking at the right time. Jackson Carroll, who was a question, who was going to be the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. He's clearly settled into the role, playing very well. It's not your typical Trinity team where you have 2 or 3 dudes on the outside who complement each other. They've been relying a lot on Nolan O'Brien. This time, though, they do have 2 really good running backs. They have 2 of the better running backs in the league, and they're very balanced, and they both carry the ball well. Trinity's defense is obviously good. They're in the catbird seat. them and then Williams, obviously sitting at 5-1. So good win for Trinity at home. I'm sure Coach Devaney is sigh of relief, done with Middlebury, and we move on.
Yeah. And listen, full credit to Middlebury because they fell behind early. They ran a fake punt. It didn't end up in points, but it was a big play. They're going against their image. Middlebury was right there. I'm sure Middlebury, watching film this week, can't believe they didn't win that game, because that's a game that like Trinity maybe wins by 2 or 3 scores, and then Middlebury flipped the script, and then once they flipped the momentum, they were there. Not only did they, I don't know if you saw the 2-point conversion play, but it was,
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I still don't know if he got in or not. To me, that was a classic NESCAC official no kind of situation, as opposed to actually watching and calling the play. And then Middlebury was driving. Listen, they got to stop late in the game. They were driving. They were in pole position, and they just couldn't quite get one more first down to get in field goal range. And it's tough for Middlebury because now we're talking 2 weeks in a row where they played Williams and Trinity, who are the 2 top teams in the NESCAC, and they had the football in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So that speaks to this league. It speaks to how good Middlebury is, and it speaks to the fine margins.
Chris, I just have to make a comment. I try to stay away from roster limits and 10th games and all that stuff, but these schools have a lot of money. The league's got a lot of money. They got to figure something out with the instant replay on key plays. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. We shouldn't be sitting here debating on was he in, was he not in? And it's just, you know what? There are high school games in New Jersey of instant replay.
Yeah.
Please.
So let me, as someone who broadcasts the games and who's privy to the way these things look, the majority of the NESCAC games are broadcast on 1-camera shoots. And quite frankly, the majority of 1-camera shoots, you're not going to get a lot. But you can still look at the 1-camera shoot, and if something is very obvious, it's worth them looking at. That doesn't mean there should be a high standard, but there are things that are very obvious. And I'm not saying this is one of those things, because I didn't get to see a replay, so I don't know. And I was doing a million things. I didn't get time. But if a wide 1-camera shot is enough to show you that there's a touchdown or there's not a touchdown, or that a ball bounced on the ground or it didn't bounce on the ground, and you can see it from the 1-camera shoot, you owe it to yourself to take 30 seconds to look at it, to your point, Dave. And as we get into the bigger games, I know that like the games that I call, the bigger games, we have multiple camera shoots.
Yeah.
So it's an easy thing to do. They're doing it in lacrosse. They're doing it in basketball, in the NESCAC. It'd be very easy to do. I don't think it would particularly slow the game down, because the majority of the time these guys come together. But the problem is, in something like that with the 2-point conversion, we saw it in the Wesleyan Tufts game. We're not privy to every single call in every game because there's a lot of games going on and they're all at the same time. But I think everyone would agree that if you have a camera, just use it.
Yep.
And if here's the problem that we get with college and we at the highest levels, and we get it in the NFL too. Replay is set up for when there's an egregious mistake to fix it.
No doubt.
And if there's that's the standard. If there's an egregious mistake, fix it. Last year, to be a neutral podcast, Wesleyan was playing against whom, Dave? The most egregious officiating call I've ever seen in my life. I think it was Hamilton, right? Was it Hamilton? Or
that was Hamilton up there. Yes, correct.
And there was a borderline lateral that might have been a forward pass, and a Wesleyan linebacker, defensive back, came up and fielded the football, did a full somersault, which
over
means
the other player. Yeah.
all parts of his body hit the ground.
Theoretically over the other player.
All parts of his body hit the ground. He came back up and ran 60 yards, and they called it a touchdown.
Yep, they did.
There's no one who's ever watched football in college that knows. There was no scenario where that's a touchdown. You could watch someone on their iPhone filming that, and you could say that's not a touchdown. So get it right. If that's possible, get it right. I'm with you, man.
Look, right now, it does make a difference for league titles and whatnot. But next year, we're talking about trips to the playoffs.
Figure it out. Just figure it out. Figure it out. We're on the same page, my man.
Yeah. Anyway,
We're on the same page.
Sorry to get political and controversial, but just had to say my
That
piece.
is the furthest thing from political or controversial in this country. We'll take a quick break. Dave and I will come back, and we have so much to talk about because it doesn't stop.
Did we talk about all the games, Chris?
Did I miss one?
Did we talk about Williams Bates? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We did. We did. We talked
I
about
got so wrapped up in the Wesleyan game. Yes, we did. Yes,
we did, sir. Yes, we did. Don't worry. Dave's orchestrating from here on out.
I did.
We'll take a quick break. Dave will give you his power rankings, and we'll preview week 7 of 9 in the NESCAC right after this. Welcome back to 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC Football Podcast, alongside the NESCAC man, Dave Bagatelle. Chris Grace back with you, and it's our pleasure to welcome in again, fresh off of a huge win on the road in Middletown, head coach of the Bowdoin Polar Bears, BJ Hammer. Coach, first of all, thank you for finding some time. I know you got a busy week coming up. You sent shockwaves throughout the NESCAC, but I know for you as a head coach, it's only one win, but it's got to feel really good to get off the schneid, and also in a really emphatic and not fluky way. Just a great team victory on both sides of the football. As Dave and I were both there, we saw every play, and I just can't tell you how impressed I was with the way your team fought and played and schemed and coached and the whole 9 yards. So congratulations. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm sure you're feeling a little bit lighter, just barely this week as you're getting ready for Trinity, but feeling a little bit better about everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good to see you guys again. Thanks for having me back on. And obviously when you get that first win of the season, which was a little earlier in the year and had a few more, but you got to build off that. And it was a good game for our guys. Proud of my coaches for coaching their butts off, but mostly our players. They played really hard and from the first whistle to the last, and super proud of them. And we're playing a ton of young guys. So to see them build and come together, it's pretty special to watch that. And that was a good win for us. And like you guys said, we got Trinity this week, so we got to build. I got to watch some film for practice here in a few minutes after I get off with you guys and do all that. Got the 4th graders math homework done, which is always a challenge. That's a little tougher than Trinity right now, to be honest with you. So we're gonna get ready for those guys. We've had a good week of practice so far. Got to keep it up over the next 2 days. So.
4th grade is right about the edge of everyone's ability. Once you get past that, long division is like right about where we push the pause button. I got one more thing I want to say. In games like this, typically when a team comes in playing with, they'll say it's cliches, nothing to lose, right? 0-5 versus the defending champions who are 4-1, playing as well as anyone in the league. But then the end of the half, you guys have a punt blocked, and then you get an amazing goal line stand, stop them 4 times inside the 10-yard line, and then the next play you get a fumble, and you guys give up a touchdown right at the end of the half. Just a gut punch going into the half. What was the halftime speech like? How did you guys come out and really bounce back and get a stop, drive right down the field, and obviously take control of the game from there on out?
I think we've been pretty resilient on defense. We've been struggling on offense a little bit, trying to figure out our quarterback situation, and with a lot of injuries to a lot of our upperclassmen on offense specifically, we need to be a little younger on D. But I was proud of our guys. Good goal line stand right after the pump block, and then obviously you hate turning the ball over anywhere, but especially down there. And we were holding them, and I think it was like 3rd down, and we tried to bluff a man pressure. And one of my freshmen, got a bunch of them on the field on defense, came up out of coverage, which would have stayed in coverage a little bit. So you live and you learn through that. So I think it was a close game. We knew we were getting the ball. So I always tell my coaches, if we panic, they're going to panic. So we came in really calm and said, we're going to reinforce what we're going to do. So the offense is going to go down and score, give us momentum. We'll go out and get a big stop. And that's what happened. So honestly, there was no magic potion to it. It was, hey, let's rest a minute or two, get our minds right, refocus. We've been playing really well on D up to that point. So we knew we'll find a couple wrinkles that we could add in if we need to, but it was all about, hey, ball security, come back focused, and get a great drive going in that second half. And our offense was able to go down and score, and that was a huge momentum boost for our defense. And then we had to fix the punt issue on special teams. Good job by Wesleyan finding the weakness, and we were able to adjust. We just didn't move quite well what we wanted to on that one. We knew it was coming, but just didn't quite make the adjustment until afterwards, unfortunately.
Just to prove that first of all, appreciate you coming on, and congratulations on the win. Just wanted to, this week, proving that this is an impartial broadcast, so that's why we had you on.
Speak for yourself, man. I'm always neutral.
That's right. Now, I try. Yeah. The offense obviously had a good week, but I think the story of the day really was the defense. You had obviously a couple really great individual efforts. Ferris Collins, NESCAC Defensive Player of the Week, 2 interceptions. Angus Leary, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, 8 pressures. And you guys on the day had 22 quarterback hurries. I've been around football for a long time. I know that's not really an official stat, but that, in my mind, that's got to be some kind of record. That was just crazy.
We have a hard time sacking Wesleyan quarterbacks. The young guy that was there last year kept me, gosh, getting sacked. He had the best stiff arm I've ever seen in my life. But I think our guys just played really hard. We're mixing our coverages and our rushes from 3 to 5 to 4, and it was just causing problems. But our guys played hard. And when you pursue the football and play hard and learn to stay in coverage and not come out, that's what our guys did. It obviously was as receiver, number 81 and number 6 are both really good players. And we just wanted to make sure they felt that every time they caught the ball, and we wanted to keep them in front of us. And that was the game plan there. But I guess, like you said, it's really good players. Zach Taylor did a great job as well.
Yeah.
One of my inside linebackers. So in some of the games we play up front, which was good, but our coverage was really sound. And that was what made me happy, because we had been struggling a little bit there. Because coming into the year, we had Nick Vescuzzi, who was going to be a 4-year starter. We thought all conference capability. He's done with his career, had some injuries, only played in really 3 quarters of football this year. AJ Muse has been in and out with injuries. So we're starting 2 true freshmen at corner. Safeties are all sophomores. At one point out there, I looked on the field on the film, we had basically an under 21 dance club, all sophomores and freshmen on defense. So that's good for the future, right? But it makes you, that's why I'm grayer than last time you saw me. They're fun to coach, but obviously we're coaching every ounce of it. But I think they're starting to rise to the occasion. And now that the offense is starting to get some momentum, and Gordon Hummel, our freshman quarterback, is stepping up, coming back from an injury. That's good to see him. He was 19 of 31, I think 3 TDs. So great to see him do that and have a good game and build something for our offense is what we needed. So,
Coach, thanks for doing my job for me there. It's a great segue. We've come to expect your defense is going to be a headache and is going to cause problems for people, regardless of who you put out there. But I was really impressed with the poise from your quarterback. And where upsets happen is when you have a few opportunities in the course of a game and you get protection and you have to make those throws. And he had, in particular, on the first drive of the second half, and then there were a couple other moments too, he had windows where he had to execute on 3rd and long. If I recall right, on that drive to start second half, I think you guys had 2 different 3rd and 8s or 3rd and 9s, and he converted on both of them. When he had time, he was accurate, and most importantly, didn't make any mistakes. So I know that your defensive blood, that's the most important thing to you probably, but you have to be super impressed, especially with as talented of a defensive front seven as Wesleyan has, that he was able to maintain his poise and deliver when he absolutely had to.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. He's a California kid, Northern Cal kid. So he's just the calmest kid you'll ever be around. And I get a little hyped up sometimes that he's, Coach, I'm relaxed. I'm good. I'm all like, all right, man. All good. So he's fun. He's going to be fun to watch and grow with. And I'm excited for him just to build. Because like I said, we played him in Hamilton. We're like, all right, we're making the change. We're going to go with him. And then he got hurt during that game and was out. And then it took a while to build him back up just from his injury that he had. And now he's back in full steam. And you can just see it starting to mesh. And I'll throw Michael Wolfendale out there too. Yeah. He moved to receiver. He's a captain. Most kids, he moved from quarterback. He has been nothing but amazing. And he's provided big plays for us. He has 2 big touchdown receptions. He made a big time 3rd down reception on an out cut. So I'm really been impressed with Michael. He's just a good athlete. And we're trying to get him continue to build at a receiver and do more and more with him. But other than that, the young guys around him have been really good too. We had a freshman receiver, Conrad Babka, catch a touchdown. Our freshman tight end caught a touchdown. You're starting to really see the young guys. Hey, 5 games in now, 6 games in, they're starting to play a little more like veterans instead of young guys, which is good to see.
Yeah, which is going to set you up well for the future. I know you want to win as many games as possible here in 25. You're not punting on the season. You got a big game this week, obviously, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's really interesting. And Chris and I have talked about this with some of the other coaches. We went from this year, we had 5 or 6 new quarterbacks in the league. Next year, we could have 8 or 9 coming back. We're going to have a lot of really good, young, experienced quarterbacks coming back in the league next year. Could be really exciting at the quarterback position.
Yeah, no doubt. It's good. Yeah, it's always, I love facing good players. Having more continuity at quarterback gives you a little something. Absolutely. Going into Tufts week 1, we had no idea what they really would be like. And then you love to play those guys a couple of weeks down the road, so you had a little more idea what's going on there. But no, I'm with you. I think it bodes well for the league, especially next year when playoffs are on the line and all that stuff. So,
yeah,
Coach, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just you read my mind. You've had obviously experience with the playoffs, with how that all plays out. Do you, having had that experience and being a part of that environment before. And now you're a head coach at Bowdoin, and obviously NESCAC's never sent a representative. Do you recruit differently? Does it impact how you practice, how you do the preseason? Will it change any of that for you?
Yeah, I don't think so. Recruiting at Bowdoin, especially with our admissions, makes things a mountain. Our pool is so small that we have to really find the right guys that love football. That's always the challenge, right? So we're going to find those right guys. But honestly, I think what I'm experiencing this year, I think Saturday we had 21 guys out with injuries. And it's not how we're practicing, and maybe some preparation, some things like that. Guys with injuries, like we came into the year without Sean Ramos, who had an ACL tear, Luke Watson, who had a big time knee issue from the Colby game. So those were our two most experienced, and Sean's and Luke are both very talented, explosive players. So without those guys, and then Slade Badensky, senior receiver, has been in and out all year with injuries. So it makes it interesting. So I think the best way is how you figure that out, right? How you keep your guys healthy for the right moments. Because 2011, 2015, when we went on deep runs in the playoffs, we were healthy. We didn't have anybody injured. Now, we practiced differently a little bit. We brought in tackle ever, but we played at a high level, but we kept healthy throughout the year. And some of that was, we knew we had some games in our conference that, hey, probably going to play 2 quarters and win pretty handily here. In our league, you can't
Not so much. Yeah,
you can't do that. So it's the only league.
Which is why you're on the podcast tonight.
The league I could compare it to is probably the Wisconsin League, where every week it is just a dogfight. And you don't see that in every conference. There's usually some ones really high at the top, and you can see, you look at Mountain Union or one of those schools, they're going to run through some of those teams in the OAC, and they know they have that. But in our league, it's a game, dogfight every week, and we're trying to make it even more of one. And so that's part of it.
Coach, I got one more for you. You obviously come off of a big win. You got a big game this week against Trinity. How do you keep your young team focused on the fact that it's one game, and that obviously it's easier to focus when you're playing against the preeminent program in the league, but still those guys are full reason to feel good about what they accomplished, but it's one game. How do you get them? How do you get them ready to go again? How do you bounce back? And whether you win or not, have a really good performance this week and not fall into any traps of, hey, we beat Wesleyan, so we're good. Talk about your process there. I feel like you're not satisfied just based on the way that we've been talking, but.
Right. I think, and this is what I talked about Sunday. We meet Sunday with our guys right at 1 o'clock. And the first thing I said, hey, you're in that win. Congratulations. Then I said, it's human nature to take a big sigh of relief. Hey, you got a monkey off your back, got a win here, but it's human nature to relax. We can't afford to relax. We're not in the position to do that. We got to build off this. Like I said, right now, defensively, we're not going to graduate anybody but one guy that rotates on defensive line to play significant minutes for us. And then offense, most of those guys are young guys too, except for a couple of linemen. This is no time to relax. It's time to continue to get better. We're getting healthier right now at the right time. So we got to build off this. And honestly, that's what I talked about with them. I said, you have to fight the human nature to relax and say, okay, hey, we got Trinity. I don't even think any of my players were alive the last time Bowdoin beat Trinity. So they don't know any different. And I got to play so many young guys, they don't care either, right? So that's part of it. So I think they're going to come in, and they've had a good week of practice so far, right attitude. So the focus is on that. Obviously, we got 2 big ones coming up after that with our rivalry games in the state of Maine. But we'd love to beat Trinity. And in all due respect to them, they're a great program. They've won all the time. But hey, like you guys said, we got nothing to lose. We're going to come out and try to get better and give them everything they can handle and try to win the game. And that's the goal for us. So I'm going to see my young guys continue to develop. And what I love about it right now is they're starting to feel, hey, wow, we can do this. Wesleyan was conference champs. We can do this if we just put it together and have each other's backs in all 3 phases. And I would be really remiss if I did not give my kicker, Caden Perry. He has been awesome. He is the
great
amazing
punting.
He's dynamic and can kick really. I had no reservations about trying to get him that field goal at the end that got blocked to try to drive it a little bit, but he is a weapon, and we got to use him as that weapon with those punts, flipping the field. And so he has been great. He is outstanding. So
did your heart sink when it got blocked, like for that split second? Where's this ball going to end up? Or did you have a better view on your sideline than I did?
I heard it, and then I saw Angus Leary's on our PAT team, so he made the tackle right away. So I felt pretty good there. You always get nervous with big boys out there. Right. But I was like, we're going to kick it. I know he can make them. He makes them all the time. So kudos to Caden. He's having a great year. Just an awesome young man and really playing at a high level as a junior this year, kicking and punting for us.
Yeah, there's some really great really great kickers and punters in the league. The kid at Colby, tremendous. The kid at the kicker at Tufts, Salicki's very good. So yeah, it's definitely up the game, so to speak, on that. My last question, just talking a little bit about Trinity, not looking for you to give away any game planning, obviously, but talk a little bit about them and what the challenges maybe they pose versus, say, Wesleyan last week.
Yeah, what I would say, they're similar in a way with the Nolan O'Brien kid, like Dante Kelly. Those are two of the most explosive players in the league. And you can watch on film, I think the O'Brien kid's returned a punt for about a 58-yard touchdown against Bates. And then he is just all over the place. I know they were struggling a little early, so whatever they could do to get him the football, and he's a difference maker. So kind of like it was against Wesleyan, we got to find ways to limit that. And you can't always just take him away. And because he's like Dante did, he found ways to catch the football. But every time he did, we hit him. So that's what we have to do. We got to eliminate him in some form or fashion, or not eliminate, but limit, I think is the best way with really good players. You can limit him. But again, it's going to come to our offense, getting some drives and scoring some points. And then we got to play very sound defense. The key will be no massive explosive plays. We were able to handle that against Wesleyan. That will be the big difference there. And then we got to play well in special teams. I think Trinity has done some fakes over the years with their punts and things like that. So you cannot relax against Trinity on the special teams front. But hey, they're always really good. I want my guys to be up for the challenge and come out with some energy and enthusiasm, feel a little momentum. But it's going to be a fun game. But again, if we can limit Nolan O'Brien, I feel like that's a huge step right there, and make that quarterback have to read a field and get pressure on him, because he's still getting his feet wet. He hasn't been a 3-year starter by any stretch. And so that's going to be big keys for us, but we got to keep building our offense, and scoring points there will be huge. So.
Look, Coach, we certainly appreciate it. You're very generous as always with your time. I can't say enough how impressed I was with your team. It's one thing to go out there and win a game, but I know that the trials and tribulations that come with each week in this league and what you put into it, and to get some positive vibes going after. I know how hard you work, and I know what goes into it. I was super happy for you, and perhaps most happy because there was nothing fluky about it. There really was. That game was as straight up of upset victories I've ever seen. Full congratulations from me. I know that it hurts Dave, but he'll get over it, as his Cardinals still have everything to play for this year.
Really do.
But listen, full credit to you guys. We'll be watching from afar, and best of luck this weekend, and good luck with that long division, because it's a little tricky. So we'll be pulling for you on both fronts.
My son doesn't like to stay in the columns. We got to keep him in his columns and keep him organized. Yeah, he's working on it though. Work in progress.
Awesome.
If I could go back, and when they tell you to show your work, I thought it was stupid. It wasn't stupid. Every kid out there listening,
I know.
Show your work. It matters.
Please do. He's my last one. I've done this with my 2 older ones. This is my last one. So I'm on the end of my math cycle. I'm done, man. So,
listen, it is the best catching up with you, Coach. Good luck this weekend. That is the coach of the Bowdoin Polar Bears, BJ Hammer. They'll be taking on Trinity this weekend. We'll be back with more 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC football podcast, right after this. Welcome back to 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC football podcast, alongside Dave Bagatelle, affectionately known as the NESCAC man. I'm Chris Grace. It's our pleasure to welcome in sophomore wide receiver, now standing at 6'5" tall, representing the Williams Eves, Zach Falls. First of all, Zach, it's great to have you on our show. What a breakout this has been for you. Last year as a freshman, barely saw the field, no catches in week 1. Week 2, you got involved a little bit, and then you exploded against Trinity and haven't looked back. Looking at your numbers, it's crazy. Just 21 catches, but 7 touchdowns, 27.5 yards per catch. Listen, most of the time, tall guys get the rep of being slow. Obviously, you're a long strider, my man. Is it frustrating for you when you catch the football and it's not a touchdown? What are you doing out there? What a heck of a performance for you.
Yeah.
Incredible. Digress, but really just a spectacular breakout season for you, and a great win for you guys this week against Bates, playing without your starting quarterback. Talk about what happened on Saturday and what a challenge that was for you guys to bounce back after falling behind big and keep your championship hopes alive.
Yeah, it was definitely a gritty win, that's what I would say for our team this year. Just in general, has been, the big word is just grit. Obviously getting behind, and first of all, starting without was definitely, we knew, okay, we're going to definitely have to make some changes this week. So beginning of the week, Drew comes in, and Drew is very hard worker, and he's a great football player, and he's been working his tail off his entire time at Williams. So I'm just super, super happy for him that he was able to get this chance, and he comes into the game, and throws for 3 touchdowns by the end, and just unbelievable. So I just want to start by congratulating him because I think he just played a terrific game. But also I want to credit everyone. It was just very collective. Like when we went into halftime, I'm pretty sure it was 23-7, and we all looked around and we were like the season's very well on the line. If you lose a game, it's very hard to win that NESCAC championship, which is the goal of our team. So we looked around, regrouped a little bit, and we just went out there in the second half and made some big plays. And I think a lot of our games like that have been a few of them have been very close too, where they come down to the wire and we just show that grit. And that's the team that I think we have this year. And that's why I think we're going to just keep on winning these close football games. So it's pretty awesome.
Yes. First of all, congratulations on the big win. Actually, the last 2 weeks have been, you could put in that gritty category, I would say.
Yeah.
But congratulations, really two great wins for Williams. It comes down to these last 3 games. You guys are right in the mix for potential, as you said, NESCAC title and Little 3 coming up. Obviously, finish the season with I would say your 2 biggest rivals, Wesleyan and Amherst, unless you would disagree. We could throw Trinity in there, but they'd probably be number 3.
Yep.
But you have Tufts this week. How do you don't want to look past Tufts? They're obviously a good football team. They've made a switch at quarterback. They're playing a lot better these last couple weeks. They're coming off a big win too. How do you stay focused on keeping your eye on the prize, so to speak?
Yeah, I just think you take it 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time. And we always talk about 1 play at a time too. Every 6 seconds is super important during the football game. Obviously, Tufts is as all teams in the NESCAC. You can go out and win on any day. We're definitely taking Tufts very serious. They're a super physical and scrappy team, and we're really hoping that we can put it together and just take it 1 play at a time and try to win this game. So obviously, they're a great football team, and we're going to give them our best game for sure.
Now, did you go into this year expecting that? I'm sure you expected your role was going to be expanded a little bit, but as the season started, we thought that no one's told us this, but we thought we've got some insiders that Owen was going to be the quarterback and that it was going to be a really run-heavy offense. Obviously, with Owen and John Orris, the 2 leading rushers in the league.
Yeah.
What did you think your role was going to be coming into this year? Did you think by any stretch of the imagination you were going to have the kind of stats that you have right now, leading the NESCAC in touchdowns? Or were you thinking, hey, listen, I'm just going to take my chances when they come and I'm going to block, I'm going to do the things that I need to do to help the team? What was your approach going into the season?
I mean, obviously Owen and John are absolute studs and they're terrific. And we knew our offense was going to be based off of them, and everyone has a job, which is the best part about a football team. And you need every single person on the exact same page in order to win football games. But going into the season, I wasn't quite sure what my role was going to be, but I definitely had high hopes for myself. And I put a lot of work in to really try to get myself in the best position to succeed. And so I was just super, super grateful for the opportunities, because obviously you need an opportunity to be able to show what you have. In the first game, I think I got a few plays, and then in the second game, that's when my number got called, and I just took advantage of the opportunity and try to make plays when you can and when the ball comes your way. But obviously in a very run heavy team, there's lots of other aspects of the game, like your pass blocking, which is something that I've been trying to work on a lot this season. So just really improving wherever I can and doing everything I can to just help the team win.
So Zach, we were talking before the broadcast, you're from Duxbury, and there seems to be a nice little pipeline going on from Duxbury to Williamstown. You want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the history and what that's all about?
Yeah. So I think the pipeline started with the Bobby Mamron coming here to play quarterback, and he really set the tone there early. And then ever since, we've just had lots of guys rolling in. And obviously, it's very hard to turn down the Williams academics. It's the #1 school in the liberal arts for academics. So I think it's just a great opportunity to come here and really try to get a good education and also play football. So I think everyone's started to see that. And as you see the older guys that you look up to come to great academic school, a chance to play football, a beautiful campus. So I think everyone just tries to take advantage of that opportunity. So I think that's how the pipeline got going, and hopefully it continues here.
How are you guys? I don't want to ask for insight. I'm trying to phrase this properly. I don't want trade secrets here because I could be liable, but not knowing the status of your quarterback situation, how are you guys preparing for this stretch run with 3 really big games coming up. Do you feel like it's next man up, or are you feeling pretty confident that it's going to be back to normal soon here without revealing too many secrets?
Yeah, I just feel like it's always the next man up mentality. We've definitely had a lot of injuries this year and lost a lot of guys to injuries. We always have to be ready to step up. And I know that there's been lots of defensive backs who have, like freshman defensive backs who have stepped up and gotten their chance. And obviously at receiver, even we've had 2 or 3 guys switch from quarterback. We've had 2 or 3 defensive backs switch over to receiver. So our team has fully embraced that next man up mentality and really just putting each other in positions to succeed, which I think is great. And obviously we have a 2-game stretch here. So I think it's just, or 3 games stretch coming up here. So I think our health status is super important and doing everything we can to stay healthy.
Yeah. So, 2-part question. First, you are, even in the NESCAC, it's fairly rare to see 2-sport athletes. You are a 2-sport athlete. We were talking also before the podcast. You play lacrosse in the spring. What's that being a 2-sport athlete at a school like Williams? Obviously, very challenging academic environment. And then my follow-up is, I know you're only a sophomore, but have you started thinking about what's sort of next after Williams and after football and after lacrosse and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, no. So for sure. I can first tell you like how I got to Williams. And I obviously I committed here for football, but when I got to Williams, I was just thinking about how the opportunity came up to play football, and I was so grateful for that, and how I just finished my lacrosse season a few months ago. And I had been emailing with the lacrosse coach a little bit, so I was just super lucky, and I ended up texting Coach McCormick, like asking if I could this was in the fall when I had first gotten here, and I just was like, hey, I would love to stop by and potentially talk about playing lacrosse. And I remember it because it's just super cool. And he just texted me, what number do you want? And so it's just pretty awesome. Definitely, I took the opportunity and haven't looked back since. And it's truly been just an amazing experience to be able to play 2 sports. And I'm super, super grateful. And it's especially awesome just because you get to just build relationships with 2 groups of guys, which I just think is the coolest part. Get to know so many people and make so many connections. And that's like outside of sports for me, relationships are just in my eyes, are just the most important thing in life. So having those and being able to make those memories with my teammates is something I'll cherish forever.
Yeah, and to follow up on Dave's question, and then outside of sports, and what are some of the things that you're thinking about? Again, you're early on in college, but something tells me you have a good head on your 6'5" shoulders. What are you thinking about? Listen, you keep catching 80-yard touchdowns 3 times a game. We might have to reevaluate, but what are you thinking about? What's your focus at Williams? What's your major if you get your declared? And what are you thinking about for next steps?
Yeah. So right now I'm planning on majoring in economics and psychology. I've really enjoyed taking those classes so far, but as far as after Williams, I mean, I'm pretty set on doing something in the finance world. And I particularly working with people, whether that's like wealth management or something along those lines, is probably where I can see myself, because I love building relationships with people, and just that kind of environment I think would suit me really well.
Yeah, and I saw you're in the investment club at Williams, so we'll have to trade stock tips later.
Yeah.
Why don't I get these stock tips? I'm the one with the 3-year-old.
We're meeting tomorrow. I'll pass along some of the tips from Zach to you. It's all good.
Gosh, the one SEC guy here needs some tips. Let's go. Come on. What are we doing? Unbelievable. Known this guy forever, Zach, and he's just now contemplating giving me a stock tip. Unbelievable. Zach, so obviously you guys have a big game this week. Last year, you didn't really get to participate super actively on the football field, but what are your thoughts on, I don't want to go past the Tufts game because it's a big game, but you've got Amherst and you've got Wesleyan, and the fact that all 3 of these teams are competing for the NESCAC this year, which hasn't been the case for a while. It's got to be a pretty awesome vibes as you're getting ready to get to the final stretches of this season. Yeah. What do you think it's going to be like, both when you guys welcome Wesleyan into Williamstown, and then obviously the biggest little game in America, which will take place at Amherst? What are your hopes and thoughts as you go into that?
Yeah. So not to look past Tufts, but obviously Wesleyan is homecoming, and obviously, like I said, I have one of my close friends on the Wesleyan team, which is always super exciting to see him and play against him. But homecoming, got all the lacrosse alumni that I haven't seen in a while, football alumni, lots of parents from both teams that will be out for the game. So it's just a super, super cool environment, and it's been circled on the schedule all year, which is just super exciting. And obviously, Wesleyan's a terrific team, also competing for the NESCAC championships. Obviously, super, super exciting game, and hopefully our team will be healthy and everyone would just do their job and try to get that win. And then obviously Amherst is a game I've been wanting to play in ever since last year, just watching the guys above me do their thing in that game. And like the mindset is almost a little different. Like it's Amherst. Like it's just a big rivalry, just something special about that game, which is really cool and definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And obviously, every week you have more and more touchdowns. I think you're building to a 4-touchdown week this week. But now, congratulations to you, and appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all you're doing in the league. And we obviously wish you luck on Saturday in Medford playing the Tufts Jumbos.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It was nice to talk with you guys.
I just want to clarify, Dave wishes you good luck this Saturday.
I was pretty clear about that.
This Saturday, he wishes you good luck. This Saturday.
Look for me in the end zone the Saturday after. So
see what Dave says a week from today about the next Saturday. But this Saturday, he wishes you good luck.
By the way, I will say this: Williams is the only school in NESCAC that actually sells beer in their stadium. That's worth something. That is true.
Yeah, fun environment.
Wow. All right, I'll be there.
We love it.
We appreciate sophomore wide receiver Zach Falls for joining us. We'll be back with more 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC football podcast, right after this. This episode of 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC football podcast, is sponsored by Sloan Walsh LLP. On the gridiron, victories come from preparation, smart play calling, and a defense you can trust. For 91 years, Sloan Walsh has brought that same approach to the legal field, especially when the game is toughest in insurance disputes. They know how to protect the end zone, move the chains, and deliver results when it matters most. From complex litigation to safeguarding what matters to you, their team is built to go the distance. Sloan Walsh LLP. Trusted counsel, championship effort. Visit sloanwalsh.com to learn more. 9 Weeks, NESCAC fans. We would not be able to do this podcast without a collaboration from our friends at Game Day Sports Programs. You can transform your game day experience with Game Day Sports, your ultimate partner in celebrating athletic excellence. They collaborate with teams and, most importantly, parent groups to create memorable keepsakes for every fan and player. From personalized parent lanyards to giant heads to senior banners that cheer on your favorite players, their custom print pieces capture the spirit and passion of your NESCAC team. Their beautifully designed programs are packed full of essential information that every NESCAC fan eagerly anticipates, making them cherished keepsakes for supporters and players alike. With over 25 years of experience, trust Game Day Sports to bring your team's story to life in vibrant print, ensuring every game day is one to remember. Welcome back to 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC football podcast, brought to you by our friends at Sloan Walsh LLP and, of course, Game Day Sports Programs, alongside Dave Bagatelle, affectionately known as the NESCAC man, the entire NESCAC. I'm Chris Grace. Glad to be back with you, Dave. There's a little shifting in the power rankings. Let the viewers know, what does the NESCAC man think that the New England Small Conference, Athletic Conference, whatever NESCAC stands for, it's looking like this week? Small College Athletic Conference.
There we go. We had a little bit of movement. Obviously, our top team held serve, the Trinity Bantams, so they're still our first place team. Williams moves up from our third spot up to 2 with their win over Bates. Dropping down to 3 is Wesleyan, and staying in the 4th spot, not moving, is Amherst. Both Wesleyan and Amherst, of course, 4-2, and still, as we've discussed, still very much in the mix for potential league titles. Middlebury's at 5. Colby is one of our biggest movers this week with the win. They're now at 500 for the year. They're 3-3. Moved up from number 8. They're now our number 6 ranked team. Bates drops down a spot at 2-4, although they did play Williams tough. They're ranked at number 7. Tufts, despite the win, not a huge convincing win over Hamilton, and they're figuring some things out. I think all those teams in that 5 through 8 level, you could throw in a hat and pluck them out, but we have Tufts ranked 8, dropping from 7. Our 9th ranked team is Hamilton at 1-5, and our 10th ranked team, despite the win over Wesleyan, is still the Bowdoin Polar Bears, although we've got an asterisk on them. We're going to watch them. We're going to see how they do this week against Trinity. And that's just, that ranking is more based on just the body of work for the season. I know our host with the most does not necessarily agree with those rankings, but that's where I have the team's ranking after 6 weeks heading into the home stretch here at the NESCAC season.
Listen, I'm going to defer to the NESCAC man. He digs deeper. He puts more time in. He knows what he's doing. I just happen to see the Bowdoin Polar Bears, and if that's the 10th best team in the NESCAC, then it's a hell of a conference. But I respect your opinion, and it's tough, right? Like, these things are all going to figure themselves out, but that's a really good number 10 because they dominated the defending NESCAC champions and obviously rearranged the NESCAC standings this week. So full credit. We'll see where they look next week. One thing I'll ask you as it relates to the power rankings, talk about Colby and the fact that we've been desperate since we started this podcast. We have so badly wanted a main team to figure out a way to get to the top half, bust up the, how would you call it? The also rans, the teams that seemingly dominate this conference year in and year out. And whether it's Colby or Bates, we went into this year, we were thinking it would be Colby or Bates. I think it would behoove the NESCAC for one of the main teams to really figure out their way to get above 500 and step into the upper echelon of this conference.
Yeah, Colby needs 2 wins in their last 3 games to finish over 500. They have Hamilton this week. We're going to preview that game in a little bit. Definitely a winnable game for them, playing at home. Then they travel to Tufts. That's not going to be an easy game for them. On the road, playing at Tufts. Not a night game, but still Tufts has been coming on. They figured out the quarterback situation. And then Colby has always a tough rivalry game, 5:00 game at home against Bowdoin. And we just saw what Bowdoin could do against Wesleyan. For some of these younger Polar Bears, it'll be their 7th or 8th game starting at that point. So that's not a layup give me for Colby by any stretch. If Bowdoin plays anywhere near what they played against Wesleyan, that could be quite a battle. Not an easy road here for Colby to finish 5-4 or better. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish the season. On the other side of the coin, no pun intended, Bates will have to win out, and they've got a tough road. They've got Middlebury this week, then they travel to Bowdoin. Not an easy game, and then they host Hamilton in their last game at noon on November 8th. So they'd have to win all 3 to finish above 500. I did have them breaking through, Chris, and finishing 5-4. It's going to be tough for them to get there at this point, but not out of the question. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, clearly. So we look at this week's schedule. Thanks for the segue, Dave. Hamilton and Colby in Waterville. Colby trying to keep the momentum going after a great road win against Amherst, taking on a Hamilton team. This is a great contrast in styles, right? This is like the offense that could against the defense that is very stingy, and 2 teams that have very similar color structures in terms of their uniform combinations. I don't know. How do you see this game going at 1 p.m. in Waterville on Saturday?
Yeah, I think this is going to be, and I don't mean this in any kind of derogatory fashion, I think it's going to be another one of these typical sort of messy Colby-like game. I think that Colby's defense is just playing really well. They seem to be, it's going to be a low-scoring game. Colby, word out of Waterville, is going to be starting a new quarterback. We're not going to see Miles Drake in this game. Obviously, Hamilton can throw the ball around. They have problems running the ball. I just think that Colby, knowing that, will get some pressure on Luke Kurzem, probably force some turnovers. Colby's only scored 17 points plus in one game this year, which was exactly 17. I see them matching that total in this game. I think Hamilton will be in this game. I don't think it's going to be 17-0 or anything like that. I see Colby winning something like 17-13, and I have Colby -3, giving 3 points at home against the Hamilton Continentals.
It's just so hard to predict Colby games because you just don't know what you're going to get from their offense, but their defense shows up every week. And Coach Cosgrove's team, they put on their helmets and they're ready to go. So again, we talked about it. Their two biggest wins this year against Amherst and against Trinity, they figured out ways to not fall behind by more than one score. And I think that's the big thing for them. And the fact that the game is at home, I agree with you. I think that Colby is a small but solid favorite in this one. And for Hamilton, they got to figure out a way to protect on both sides of the line. What's their line play to me that is the one thing that's really missing? I think if you separate the line play, which is a mistake in football, they've got a really good football team, but you can't do that, right? You got to protect the quarterback and you got to figure out a way to harass the opposite quarterback. So I tend to agree with you. I think that Colby is a small favorite in this football game.
Yeah, so just before we move on, some little secrets on let everybody under the hood, so to speak, and looking at how to pick NESCAC games. I will generally pick decent defense over a decent offense, and I think Colby sort of checks that box in this one. And then I always think in these low-scoring games, especially where the trip for Hamilton, I don't even know how you get from Hamilton to Colby. I know they're not flying. God, what an awful bus ride that's got to be. So I'm going to give the edge to Colby, the home team, with a kind of bus ride like that. I know they're coming down the day before, but still, just the fact they get on the bus after the game and drive, it's got to be a 7 or 8 hour bus trip. That's the worst. So that factors into another reason why I like Colby in this game.
If I were to guess, I'd say they're going to do it by road, Dave. By road.
Some way, yeah. There's no train service either from
by road.
Waterville to Clinton or Waterville to Utica or wherever Clinton is. Yeah.
So let's keep it moving. Middlebury, Vermont, the site of Bates and Middlebury, two teams really fighting to figure out their way towards the 500 marker for the year. We talked about Bates a little bit earlier and some of their tough losses. Listen, another opportunity for both these teams to build towards next year. Not the year that either one of these teams were hoping for, but should be a really competitive game, I think, in Middlebury on Saturday.
Yeah, both teams are out of contention for the NESCAC this year, but they both, as you noted, still have a chance to get to 500. So they are playing for something. This is just one of those weird anomalies in the NESCAC. Bates just cannot beat Middlebury. I did a little bit of research, Chris. Last 47 times they played. Okay.
That's a lot of research. 47. Wow.
Back to 1970. By the way, NESCAC man was 6 in 1970. That's a fact. In those 47 games they've played since 1970, Bates has only won 3 times. So they're 3-44 in the last 47 meetings. I don't know. We talked about, we're going to talk.
Last year, hold on. 20-second timeout. Last year.
I know. That's one of the 3. But they've never won 2 in a row. And we're going to talk about investing with our guest, Zach Falls. The trend, in my opinion, in NESCAC tends to be your friend. That weighed into, I think this is going to be a close game, by the way. I think these teams are very evenly matched. There's a lot of stars running around on both sides of the ball. Middlebury, of course, is Connor McClellan and Mike Hanen and Brian Moran. And, of course, Ryan Linsky running around for Bates. He's one of the top running backs in the league, obviously, first-team All-NESCAC player. Bates is 1-2 over the last 3 games, but those 2 losses were by a total of 14 points. So they've played people tough. They're not getting blown out. They've got tough kids like Ryan Rosich on defense. I think Middlebury at home, I'm going to follow my rules of picking NESCAC. Middlebury at home. I think Middlebury's a 6-point favorite playing at home. And I think Middlebury wins something like 27-24. I think it's a close game, but I think Middlebury pulls it out. Their only 4 losses were to the, as I noted earlier, the 4 leaders in the NESCAC. So I think they beat Bates at home.
I think that's a very fair and honest assessment from you. We move forward. Brunswick, Maine. Trinity coming off of a hard-fought victory over Middlebury has to travel to Maine and take on Coach Hammer's Polar Bears, coming off of the biggest win in the NESCAC this year, as they just really, as we've touched about, dominated Wesleyan in every phase. Listen, this is a Trinity team that's won their last 5 games. They struggled, obviously, in week 1 in Maine, but their second trip to Maine hopefully will be a different result for Coach Devaney. Do you see a scenario where Bowdoin's able to keep this one close, Dave?
Yeah, I think Bowdoin, in order to have a shot like they did last, they're going to have to play in a lot of ways a mirror image of what they played last week. Force turnovers, get sacks, put relentless pressure on Jackson Carroll. In a lot of ways, like Matt Fitzsimon's, not the most mobile quarterback. He's not going to run around like some David Estevez or Bobby Mameron or anything like that. I think the difference here, though, for Trinity is the Bantams have a better running game than Wesleyan. That's just a fact. They've got Tassoni and DiNapoli, and I think they're going to have the opportunity to catch Bowdoin with the wrong blitz package, the wrong twist. They're in the wrong gaps, and those guys could break a couple of big runs and maybe take it to the house. I think that's Wesleyan's running game. They just couldn't get it going against Bowdoin. I think Trinity will have a little bit better luck. Bowdoin basically is going to have to play the way they played last week. And Soren Hummel, who's freshman playing, he played very well against Wesleyan. He'll have to have another career day against Trinity for them to have a shot. Now, the advantage here, as I said, Trinity's advantage is they have a better running game right now than Wesleyan. That gives them an edge there. The advantage here for Bowdoin is they're playing at home. They're playing in friendly confines. Trinity's got a long bus ride. And like we talked a little bit about Wesleyan, Trinity's got to be careful not to look past Bowdoin. They've got a couple big games coming up. They obviously are right in the mix for a NESCAC title. They don't want to stub their toe. By the way, if they were to lose, it wouldn't be the end of their title hopes. Just Amherst and Wesleyan still are very much in it as well. But they don't want to be heading into the last couple games with a loss on their ledger. They want to take care of business and then head into their last 2 games against Amherst and Wesleyan with having 100% control of their own destiny.
Yeah, I think that's an astute point, Dave. I think the biggest issue that Wesleyan faced last week was that they were never at all able to establish the run. And without doing so, Bowdoin was able to really just fire blitzes as they pleased because they weren't fearing Wesleyan's running game. And Trinity has more experienced, bona fide running backs, as you mentioned. And I think that's going to be the key to the game is, can Trinity run the football? Because I think if they can't run the football, they're going to see a similar problem that Wesleyan faced, which is they're going to have a relatively inexperienced quarterback that's going to be seeing something he's never seen before. And we saw what happened to Trinity and to Carroll when they faced Colby. Bowdoin's even a different animal than Colby. Now, Colby has guys, but Bowdoin does things differently. And what I saw last week was they're showing up with 3 guys on the line of scrimmage. And when the ball is snapped, there's 4 or 5 guys coming. You don't know where they're coming from, and they're coming from all different angles. And that's not comfortable for anyone. So I'm very curious to see how this game plays out. I think if Bowdoin can figure out a way to protect the football, being that it's at home, if they can avoid a slow start, I think this could definitely be a 4-quarter football game. I really feel that way. But I agree with you. Trinity's definitely favored to win the game. You'd be stupid not to be. I think I said as much to Coach Hammer, but I would not be shocked if Bowdoin's in this football game late, if they can take care of the football.
Yeah, so I would like to see a close game and have Trinity feel a little bit of pressure. I think the running game's the difference here. I have Trinity winning pretty big here. I think they take care of business. They win something like 45-7.
Well,
have them 35-point favorites over the Bowdoin Polar Bears.
Okay. I'm not gonna take the bait. Williams and Tufts. Williams, obviously, we're not sure what they're gonna do at the quarterback position, and Tufts has figured out the quarterback position. This to me feels like the classic. Last week was the sleeper trap games. This is
Yep.
the classic. Williams has their two biggest games every year still on their schedule, and they're playing a Tufts team on the road that's figured out their offense with athletes all over the place. I am so curious to hear what you think is going to happen in this football game.
Wow. I think it's not our game of the week, but it could be. I think this is going to be a great football game because I think Tufts has figured out the quarterback situation. Williams, we don't know who's going to play quarterback. I know Renzella played well last week, but look, you're losing one of the top runners in the league, and he's actually thrown the ball fairly well this year, better than fairly well. He's thrown the ball very well.
The top runner in the league before he went out.
Yeah. So he was a NESCAC Offensive Player of the Year candidate. What I'm hearing is he's going to play this week. I'm assuming in my picks that he's going to play. I think they'll miss him. How can you not miss him if he's not playing? Obviously, we have our guest on who's every week Zach Falls seems to be getting better and better. But here's the thing. Tufts, it's really interesting matchup because Tufts has not defended the run well this year. They're 9th defending the run. And of course, Williams is by far the leading running team in the NESCAC. On the other side of the ball, Williams doesn't defend the pass. They're like 9th against the pass, 8th or 9th against the pass. And I know Tufts isn't up there in passing right this second, but since Hudson Weidman's been playing, they have been one of the top passing teams in the NESCAC. So I think you've got one of the top passing offenses in Tufts going against one of the worst passing defenses, then one of the best running offense going against one of the worst running defenses. So I think this game's going to be fairly high scoring. I think Tufts is going to try to attack Williams by the air. Look, Bates did it, and they have that film. So they're gonna try and do it, and I think Williams is gonna. That's why if Johansson doesn't play, they've got John Orris, so they're gonna give the ball to John Orris 30 times, and he had a 92-yard run last week, so he'll run the heck out of the ball, and you could see him have a huge day against Tufts defense. Look, it's at Tufts. Williams, I don't think they're gonna look past this team because Tufts is a good football team. They're coming in 3-3. I think I have Williams as a 4-point favorite. I think Williams wins something 27-23, 27-24, something like that. But I think this game could come down to the wire. I think it's going to be a very good football game. And I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Tufts come away with the win. And by the way, I think the X factor for the Jumbos is Keller Rogers, who's a Tufts return guy, the kickoff return guy. He's been stellar this year, and he's really a player to watch for Tufts. He could be a difference maker in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with your sentiments. I think we see this in all levels of college football. When a team figures out their quarterback, it changes the whole dynamic of their team. And sometimes it happens if a coach is lucky, it happens in the second quarter of week 1. Sometimes it happens in the second half of week 6, right? And you don't get repeats, so you don't. I'm sure Coach Savetti wishes that they had figured this out a little bit earlier, but the fact of the matter is, you look at their offensive numbers, and it's a staggering difference in the last couple of weeks.
They look like I've watched a number of Tufts games. They look completely different with
completely different team, and the stats are different. Yeah, I'm very curious. This is what makes this league so attractive, is that you've got these teams that have changed throughout the course of the year that are going to face off, and Williams, who's maybe one of, if not the most balanced teams in the league. Listen, that's not going to be a fun game for them. I would not at all, to agree with you, be surprised at all if Tufts figures out a way to win. And it's par for the course with this league this year, right? We talked about it going into the year. We felt like this is a two-loss kind of year for the NESCAC, and Williams is one of the 2 teams that only has 1 loss. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to pay attention to. So we go to our final game of the week, Dave, and these are 2 teams that came into last week riding high, playing great football, and they both suffered shocking defeats. Not only shocking defeats, but shocking home defeats. Obviously, Wesleyan more than Amherst. But Amherst's home loss to Colby was very surprising. I wouldn't call it shocking. It was surprising. Wesleyan's home loss to Bowdoin, I would call shocking in the grand scheme of the NESCAC. But if you told me that Amherst was 0-6 and Wesleyan was 6-0, I would tell you it doesn't matter. They're going to play a game that's going to come down to the final play. So I'm pretty sure that's where we're headed this weekend. It's going to be homecoming at Andrews Field, and there's going to be thousands of people there, and there's going to be passion, food, grill smoke, energy, everything. And it's going to be a great day. I'm sure it's going to come down to the final drive, maybe in overtime.
Yeah, and these teams have obviously played a couple of those overtime games the last couple of years.
Is this their 7th matchup all time?
Seven, yeah. It's like the 140th or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the oldest rivalries in the country. And what makes it fun is, you're right, always throw the records out. Look, this is a Little 3 game. Wesleyan has won the last 3 Little 3s. They have never, ever won 4 straight Little 3 titles. So there's that. Okay. Both teams come in 4-2, but both teams completely control their own destiny to get at least a share of the NESCAC title. So this is a playoff game for the NESCAC championship, potentially. It's a playoff game for the Little 3, for sure, 100%. And both teams are really good. Amherst is 4-2, Wesleyan's 4-2. They're both coming off really bad losses. There's no other way to say it. Obviously, we talked at length about Wesleyan losing to 0-5 Bowdoin. But Amherst, like you said, they're not happy losing at home to a Colby team that they outgained by a lot, out first down by a lot, and just lost. And the defense did a great job, as they always did. Amherst has a great defense. They've had a great defense really throughout almost Coach Mills' entire tenure. Offense has struggled the last couple of years, not this year. They found a quarterback in Merrick Hill, very good player. Even despite them losing last week, he still threw for over 300 yards. Of course, costly turnover. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game. I feel like, look, I think Wesleyan has to run the ball better than they have. We've talked a lot about that. They don't need to go out and run for 200 yards, but they've got to establish some sort of run to at least keep the Amherst defense honest, or else Amherst will come after the quarterback, and they've got a fair number of sacks, and they'll put pressure. And when Matt Fitzsimons has time to find Newcomb and to find Kelly and to find his tight ends, the Wesleyan can be quite effective. They've got to be able to run the ball a little bit on the other side. And Amherst defense is very good. So it's not playing against a bunch of slouches. On the other side, it begins and ends. What the Wesleyan defense has to do is they got to stop Merrick Hill. Merrick Hill makes the Lord Mammoth's offense go. Makes the Mammoth's offense go. He's a very good player. He passes, he runs. If you stop him, if you're Wesleyan, you can win this game. But I do feel like I feel like it's going to be a 1-touchdown game. It's going to be a huge crowd. Wesleyan is honoring their all-decade team from the 2010s. By the way, just a congratulatory note to all those players that made that all-decade team. It was really a great decade for Wesleyan football, winning the Little 3 for the first time in 40-plus years in that decade, winning NESCAC championships in that decade. A lot of really great historical players will be back on campus. A lot of their parents and family will be there. Plus, it's homecoming. It's going to be a huge crowd. The weather's supposed to be fantastic. I think it'll be the biggest crowd in NESCAC this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7,000 or 8,000 people on Andrews Field. So that's going to help Wesleyan, frankly. And so I think Wesleyan at home beats Amherst 27-21. And I make Wesleyan a 6-point favorite at home.
The second you pick against Wesleyan is the second I stop doing this podcast. So we got that going for us.
I'm not doing it this week.
This is not on homecoming.
Not happening.
I'll talk to you pre-Trinity week. So listen, I agree with you. I think Wesleyan is a favorite in this game. I think they have to be. I think Wesleyan matches up great with Amherst. The real question is, can the teams that play Wesleyan moving forward replicate what Bowdoin was able to do to them? Because what they were able to do is I'm hesitant to say, but they made Matt Fitzsimons uncomfortable. Now, he performed very adequately uncomfortable last week, but you get knocked down 22 times, you're going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And Wesleyan has to figure out some things up front because I know Coach Mills, and he's not going to just not watch that game tape. He's going to have some things schemed up. He's going to figure out some ways to come with 4 and drop 7 in zone coverage and twist his linemen. And Wesley needs to figure that out. And the best way they could figure that out is by running the football.
Yep. But look, Bowdoin's defense, as we know,
yeah, it's unique.
It's unique. We've had Coach Hammer on
but
many
it's not
times.
That.
We've
Dave,
had Drew Ortiz. We've had Coy Price on.
But
it's different.
Dave, you're a former defensive lineman. There's nothing that unique about twisting 2 defensive linemen. There's nothing that unique about
one. Up until last week,
just wait.
Wesleyan's offensive line played pretty well. So.
Okay, but there's nothing that unique about reading a team's clap count and figuring out when they're clapping, and that's where I'm going to send my alignment, my blitz to time it perfectly the entire game. Those are things that Wesleyan needs to regroup from and figure out. Because if Bowdoin could figure that out, and I could figure that out calling the game, anyone else could figure that out with their own eyes. So these are things that they need to figure out.
No doubt. But look, you run a couple draws, you throw a couple screens, and things change very quickly. So look, Wesleyan.
That would be the first screen of the year. So Wesleyan, I look forward to seeing it.
Wesleyan knows what they did wrong also. And Amherst plays a little different defense, but they got to run. They have to run the ball better. They have to. You can't have 30 yards rushing. You can't.
And your Wesleyan Football Podcast is brought to you by our friends at 9 Weeks. Listen.
Hey, it's our game of the week. And
I know.
And I am being pretty objective. So
he's very objective, and he can't help it. He bleeds it. He loves it. I love it. I love this man.
No, look, they have to
play
better. Look, Coach DeCenzo would be the first to say they have to play better than they played against Bowdoin, or else they're going to get the doors blown off by Amherst. No question.
That's an understatement. Listen, I love this man. I love Dave Bagatelle. I love what he does for the NESCAC. He loves all the NESCAC. He just loves Wesleyan more.
You just love my chili and my turducken. That's all you.
I love it all. No, I love it all. Listen, anyone who listens to us knows that your passion runs deep, not just for Wesleyan, but for the NESCAC, which is why we're doing this. And we appreciate everyone for being a part of this. If you could bear with Dave when he's mourning over the Cardinals loss or previewing a Cardinals game, you realize that we're all here to get everyone involved. As you can tell, because we've only had one Wesleyan guest on so far this season, and we're approaching week 7. Stay with us. We'll keep it neutral. We'll keep it positive. And we'll keep talking about the NESCAC, which is why we're doing this thing. Dave, before we go away, I know you're looking forward to this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. We're getting into the final stretch. Everything's still to play for. It's finally poised, my man. We got it all. We got it all there. Everyone's playing each other for the most part. It's going to be a great finish to the season.
Yeah, really excited. I don't like to use the word parity. What I would just say is we're seeing some of the schools coming up. We talked about it earlier with Coach Hammer. Next year, I don't want to start talking about next year, but
it's gonna be awesome.
The quarterback play. You've got this year we have 5-6 new quarterbacks. Next year we're gonna have 8 or 9 guys who are back, who are studs. Loaded. So it's gonna be. But this is what you want as a football fan, right? The only thing I wish is that at the end of the day, the winner got rewarded with the spot in the playoffs this year. That would have put the icing on the cake. We're not going to have that till next year. Hopefully I'll end up going to see one of my best friends' son play at Ithaca. They got a big game this weekend, by the way, against Union.
Go Bombers.
Not to go off the wavelength, by the way. Be the first time ever I've rooted against Union. My dad went to Union College. My 2 sisters went to Union College.
My sister went there too.
But I'm going to root for the Bombers this week because my buddy's son plays tight end for him. And I want to go to an Ithaca Bomber playoff game. That's where my heart is this weekend. And who knows, maybe next year, that'll be our Wesleyan's first game in the playoffs will be against Ithaca. That would be fun.
Once we're an official NESCAC Football Podcast, we can tell you how we really feel. But for now,
that's never happening. I can tell you that right now.
Don't hold your breath. I got connections. For now,
All right, there you go.
For the NESCAC man, Dave Bagatelle, I'm Chris Grace. We hope you enjoyed this. Please make sure you subscribe, click the like button, do all those things. We'd like to thank, of course, your lovely daughter for producing this podcast. And of course, we'd like to thank our wives for allowing us to talk until way too late at night in the middle of a work week. But for Dave, I'm Chris. We want to thank Zach Falls. We want to thank BJ Hammer. And we want to thank you, the NESCAC fans, for keeping us going. Until next time, this is another episode of 9 Weeks, your unofficial NESCAC Football Podcast. So long, everybody.
Bye, everybody.